This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to thank Nick and Dan for making this possible, and certainly Dave and the folks that were there with you. Thank you very much for your business, and hopefully this presentation will give you a good overview of the Smart product as well as the Pro product. And I have a few other products that I'll talk about as well near the end, just to give you a flavor for what we have. And one of the things I like to do is encourage questions. So throughout the presentation, it doesn't matter where I am. Feel free to chime in and stop and ask a question at any time. So for those of you I have not met, my name is Jack Bartell, and I am Manager of Technical Services for North America for Olympia Splendid. I've been with Olympia Splendid for a little over a year now. I have 50 years in the HVAC industry. I sit on the board of directors for Para. I'm certified in 5 specialties with Nate. In fact, I sit on the Nate technical committee, and we write all the questions for Nate. So if you have any questions on that, RSCS or ACA, for ACA, I sit on the technical advisory board. So I have helped with the rewrite of Manual J, Manual S, Manual T, Manual D, and helped create Manual ZR. So I'm very familiar with all of those processes. So if you have any questions on any of that, you can certainly come to me as a resource. And if you have questions about Nate or Para or even ACCA or RSCS, feel free to give me a call. So you see me there in that upper right hand, and I have my pole bent. In my part of the world, we just call that pullage and tight lines. And that particular fish that was online there was this guy, 88-pound halibut that I got about a little over a month ago. And I shipped home 53 pounds of meat, and I'm down to 1 pound. My neighbors have scarfed up most of it. But if you find yourself down here on the East Coast in the Virginia area and you would like to get some fishing in, I can't take you halibut fishing, but we can certainly go flounder fishing or tuna or mahi-mahi, whatever it is you like. That is my ride. That's in my backyard. And so if you get down this way, we can take go out and have a business meeting on the boat while we drag some lines. And that way I can charge the fuel to Diego. So very quickly, the company I work for is a privately owned, family-operated business in Brescia, Italy, and they have been around since 1956. They have been producing heating and air conditioning products since the 70s, and the product that we're going to be talking about, the Maestro Smart, has been around for over 20 years, and there are over 500,000 of them installed around the world. And I think you'll find that the warranty rate on these things is very, very, so my point is simply this: quality is a very high regard for an Italian-based company. So we have very few issues, and when we do have some kind of an issue, it gets addressed very quickly. So I have a call every 2 weeks with the factory. So whenever issues come up and they come to my attention, I make it to the factory's attention very quickly. So we respond quickly to issues, and we'll talk a little bit more about that going forward, but that's basically who the company, they're located. Brescia is about 30 kilometers from the hottest red zone in Italy when they were locked down because of the COVID. So fortunately, no one in the company got the COVID, but everyone in the company knows someone who died from it. They had a horrible, horrible, their percentage, because when this thing first started, it was much, much higher. I also, by the way, had the COVID. I got it a day after I went fishing in Alaska. I had it for 3 weeks, and I can tell you, you don't want it. So stay safe up there. So this is our footprint. We are located in North America, South America, China, Australia, and various parts of Europe. So it is a global company. There are, again, units of theirs installed all around the world. And, just want to let you know that we're not just a small company that, it's been out there a long time, and the product is very, very dependable. So the product we are most proud of, quite frankly, is our Maestro product. We're going to talk about the Maestro Smart and the Maestro Pro. So we have two sizes of units and two technologies, if you will. But the thing that is most unique about our unit by comparison to most other products out there is the only impact on the building are two 8-inch grills. And you can see the grills here on the screen. And these grills, when you look at the upper right-hand corner here, you can see this unit was installed low underneath a window. Okay. Same thing over here. Actually, this one is shown as a high, even though it's below the next floor, but this is the a high installation, as are these on the right-hand side. So these are high installation as well. So you can install this unit anywhere from 4 inches from the floor to 4 inches from the ceiling, but it must be installed on an outside wall. And that outside wall has to be less than 39 inches thick. Okay. So if you have questions on applications where you have something that's a little outside of the ordinary, please don't hesitate to give me a call and let's talk about it, because even though it may be a little bit outside the box, we may be able to get it to work. But I would always prefer, if it's going to be something unusual, that you give me a call so we can make sure that we agree it's the proper application. So again, the impact on the outside wall is minimal by comparison to window units and, of course, split systems. And it is an Italian design. It uses a Pure System 2 for filtering, and the filters are easily accessible, and you can see them on the right-hand side here at the bottom, where that's half the filter is shown turned up, and in the middle picture you can see the filter in place. Okay, and there are additional filters that come with the unit. There is a black filter that is carbon activated, and there is a green filter that is designed to remove particulate. So those are optional. They come with the unit. They can be installed directly on the existing filters. And of course, we recommend that the filters be cleaned on a regular basis. The maintenance routine for this unit is once a year you would clean the filter. You would clean and check and clean, if needed, the coils and also the drain pan and the drain line. So it's the maintenance is very minimal, but it does have to be done. I can tell you that most of the calls I get where the unit shuts down on a code that says the drain is plugged is typically because, or the unit goes out on high pressure. It's almost always because the filters, the coil are dirty, or the drain pan is dirty. So I'll tell the folks on the phone, you know, clean the filter, clean the coil, clean the drain pan, and if you still have a problem, call me back. And I almost never hear back from them. So you can see in the upper left there, every unit comes with a remote control. I am beta testing right now a factory wireless Wi-Fi connector, and also some third-party vendors with Wi-Fi capable devices. So stay tuned. There'll be a lot more information on that coming. It is a patented design. Nobody in the world has anything quite like this. There's a small company, Nova, up in Canada, that is actually a former engineer of Olympia Splendids, but their product is a smaller version that has yet to receive any type of certification. So currently, I know that it's only sold in Canada, but it is, you know, it's the closest thing you may find to ours, but they have, again, one model. The warranty on the unit is 7 years on the compressor, 2 years on the parts. And if a compressor fails in the first year, then we just give you a new unit, okay? And then, of course, that unit would have to be sent back to me or to the nearest service center. And that service center, we will investigate, because we have very, very few problems with parts. In fact, I have never seen a compressor fail in the US or Canada at this point. And I think there have been, I think of the 500,000 that are in the field for as long as 20 years, only 2 compressors have been returned to the factory, and both of those, when torn down, were shown to have been hit by lightning. So the product is in fact, the warranty rate on this product, and if you're familiar with warranty rates with manufacturers, anything less than 2% failure rate is considered quite good. So if you're 2% or below, that's your benchmark for high quality. The part failure rate consists of how many parts fail within the first 30 days, how many parts fail within the first year, and how many parts fail within the first 5 years. To have a full spectrum of what the quality is, you need to have at least 5 years in the field. We've got over 20, and the warranty failure rate with all of those factored in is 0.02%. Any manufacturer in the United States would kill to have a product that has a failure rate of less than 0.02%. So my point simply being, you won't have a whole lot of failures. We also have the unit rated for two values that are quite important in the US and some of the major cities, okay? And it's sound transmission class and indoor-outdoor transmission class. So those two values that you see on the screen here are the highest values achievable in this class of unit. In other words, you cannot get a better sound transmission class or outdoor-indoor transmission class than this unit. Most of the competition, particularly those that are, we get compared often to PTACs, and very often the PTAC manufacturers will provide ratings on their STC and the OITC, and they're in the mid 20s, and for the STC, and for the IOTC 18. So our units are the quietest on the market and do not allow noise to transfer from outside to inside. The installation is quite easy. It doesn't require a refrigeration technician, quite frankly, because it's a completely sealed system. It's self-contained, so the refrigeration system is ready to go. So all you have to do to install this unit is you position the drilling template on the wall. And again, it has to be a wall that communicates with the outside. And here's a close-up of the template itself. And you can see that there are two possibilities for your installation, okay? You have these 8-inch holes that you can use, or you can have the 6.4-inch holes. We strongly recommend that the unit be installed with the 8-inch hole openings and not the 6.4. You can use the 6.4, but you have a reduction in efficiency and a slightly higher possible sound transmission, because now your velocity of your air is going to be a little higher. But in some cases, when you don't have you have these geometric constraints that don't allow for the 8-inch, you can use either 8 or 6.4. The other penetration you're going to make in the building is the drain. So in your market, I think you guys have some humidity now and then. So this unit, for the most part, will re-evaporate most of the condensate. But in your market, which is obviously high humidity, you may not be able to re-evaporate all of the condensate. And so if there is excess condensate, it has to drain out through a drain hole, which should be a part of your installation, okay? So this template gets put on the wall, and then you can level it and then cut your holes. Note that between these two holes, between the two 8-inch or the two 6.4, you have just over 4 inches. So two 8-inch holes should allow you to straddle a beam that's going up inside your building, if you will, or inside your wall. So you can have a 2x4 or 2x6 on in the middle of those two holes and give you all the access that you need. So again, you make the two holes in the wall and you mount the bracket, and you can see the bracket here mounted on the wall. And of course, you want to make sure that these units weigh about 86 pounds. So you want to make sure that you use anchors into the studs when possible, so that you can carry that 86-pound weight. So once you cut your hole between the indoor and the outdoor, and of course your 3/4 inch hole for your drain, then you put your duct on. So there's ductwork that goes between the inside ring and the outside grill, and there you see your ductwork, and this ships with the unit. And it's nothing more than a flat plastic that is then rolled into an 8-inch or 6.4-inch duct. And you cut it to the width of the wall. You put tape on the seam on the top and tape on the inside seam, and then you install that duct so that the seam is at the top. And when you drill your holes, you want to drill your holes so that it is a slight incline to the outside, and I'll show you a picture of that shortly. That way, if any water drives in because of a driving rain, it just rolls back out again through off of this plastic. So that's why you want that seam on the top. And then the grills can be, you can install this whole thing from the inside without ever having to go outside, again, depending on the construction of your building. So the grills fold in half. So from inside the house, you put the chains and the springs on the grill, you fold them in half, and you push them through the hole, and then you pull them tight up against the wall. You're done outside. Okay. And then again, once you get the unit on the wall, as you see in this lower left, I always tell people to use about a 3 or 4 inch, something that's thick, 3 or 4 inches, that when you hang it on the bracket, you can keep the bottom held out, and then you can get your drain connected to it much easier. And here you see the springs and the chains that are used to keep the inside ring and the outside grill attached to one another. So take note of these plastic tabs here, and then you have your springs and your chains, and then there are some mounting hardware. But again, depending on your material of your building, you may have to use different mounting hardware. So there you see the outside grill and the inside ring. And that plastic piece that was in that bag attaches directly to one side of the spring, and then you slide it into this little extension here on the outside grill. So now the outside grill has that spring and chain. Fold the grill in half, stick it out through the wall, and then you pull the chains tight so that they clip and the chains mount on these little tabs on the inside ring. And you are done with the duct work. You are done with the grills. Now you can mount the unit on the wall. The unit also comes with some foam tape. And after you put the grill on, you put the foam around the inside of this ring for both the intake and the exhaust. And then when the unit slides down against there, it makes a good solid seal. And again, you can see the bracket down here that the unit mounts on. You see the two little clips here, and that's what actually holds the unit. And it's drilled in various places so that you can, get into a stud situation. But if the studs fall outside of these holes, then you simply have to drill a couple of holes that will match your application. And these units come shipped with a remote control. And you can see the remote control has a little sliding door on it that goes up and down to hide some of the keys. It is battery operated, 2 AAA batteries. And the unit that you receive will have a remote that is Fahrenheit only. So if you have a customer that has maybe recently come from Europe or Canada, you can certainly, we have Celsius remotes that can be purchased, and they're very inexpensive. But if you had someone that wanted it in Celsius, we can certainly accommodate that. These units are 115 volts, so they just plug into the wall. And you can see it comes on the plug, a GFI protection. They draw about 8.5 amps, so it can be installed in a already existing circuit. In the installation instructions, it will tell you that it recommends a dedicated circuit, but recommending and requiring are two different things. So if you have an existing application that has a plug nearby, you can just plug it in the wall. You're done with your electrical. Okay. the only thing you have to do, and I tell people this all the time when they're going to say look at jobs, is look at that circuit or that plug that's in the wall, and then try to determine, are there other things nearby that are load carrying? So do they have an ice maker or a refrigerator plugged into that same circuit? Then you probably will see that GFI trip, because you will have more load than what's required. So you may even recommend to the consumer, okay, we're going to put the unit here, so you may want to take this device and move it to some other circuit so that it frees it up. So again, that's an application thing. We also have installations in directly in windows, where all glass buildings are buildings that have a lot of glass. So we have these grills that are plastic, and they kind of blend in with the window well. And then you can make a very easy composite little box that sits on the floor. The unit mounts on that composite box, and now you have an installation through a window. So not a problem at all. Now this very quickly gives you an understanding of the flow of air into the unit and out of the unit. Now this is actually an older style. The units that were produced for the last 10 years have the flow of air opposite to what you see here. So on the units that you will be getting, when looking at the grill on the outside, the condenser air goes in on the left hand and goes out on the right hand when you're looking at the grills from the outside. So that's the only difference here on this slide. And then what you're seeing over here is the condensate management system, and the fact that there is a pump in there that pumps that condensate up to a slinger that goes across the condenser coil. Okay, and that remains true today as well. When you install, the unit comes shipped from the factory for 6.5-inch openings. So if you're using the recommended 8-inch openings, you have to break off this tab, which is, it's sort of like a crescent-shaped piece of composite plastic that is insulated. And so you have to remove that in order to have the full airflow required for the 8-inch holes. Okay. And again, you're going to install your air intake and exhaust grills. Here you see the duct work that's gone through. Notice that it is pitched to the outside to allow any water driving rain that could just to come back out again. And again, currently we only have the grill on the left available. This one was installed in the field, and it had not enough airflow allowance, not enough free air. So it caused the unit to trip out on high pressure. So at this point in time, the only grill I have to offer is this one, and it is paintable. But I am working with the vendor to have grills made rectangular that would give it, a rectangular look on the outside. I don't have those available just yet, but they will be. When you install the unit, as I mentioned earlier, it can be either top or bottom installation, meaning as close as 4 inches to the floor or as close as 4 inches to the ceiling, where you want to have, and you can be on that wall anywhere in between that 4 inches from the floor or 4 inches from the ceiling. But if you install it in a ceiling application, the unit comes from the factory configured for a low application. So you have to turn the flapper if you're installing it in a high application. Okay, and it just takes a couple of minutes, and you change that, and now the air is pointing down as opposed to pointing up. And here you see the floats that are inside the unit. Okay, and this was actually some text that I had sent to the factory, but when the lower float here opens, or I should say when the lower float here closes, it's a normally open switch, it turns on the condensate pump. And if you are not draining or evaporating enough condensate and the upper float opens, because that's a normally closed switch, that will turn the unit off. So if your unit turns off because of high condensate, it's usually a block drain or floats that aren't working correctly. Could be a pump that's failed. But again, these happen very, very infrequently. Okay. So that's a very quick overview of how the unit gets installed. Any questions at this point?
Well, I think you answered some of them that I've been taking notes on. That condensate pump, though, you said it pumps up to a slinger.
Correct.
So where does the drain then comes off? Still a pan under the condenser coil?
Yeah, so under the evaporator coil and under the condenser coil, both, there is a drain pan. You can see the drain pan right here, okay?
Okay.
And
so the pump pumps it over the condenser coil, though.
correct.
And what it doesn't
And the pump is only used in cooling mode, okay?
Right.
So in cooling mode, we pump the condensate up to the condenser where it re-evaporates, and again, 90% of it will be re-evaporated, but there'll still be in your market, I'm sure, some leftover condensate. In many of our markets, they never see any condensate in the summer because it all re-evaporates. But in your part of Florida, obviously very, very humid, so you may see some condensate come out in the summer, and that would be whatever excess is not being re-evaporated.
Right.
In the winter time, this is a heat pump, so in the wintertime, we do not activate the pump. It doesn't do anything in heating mode, and we activate what's called a thermo actuator, which basically is a plunger that comes down and opens the seal so that the condensate just drain, from the defrost mode will just drain outside.
Okay, so
That makes sense?
Yeah, that goes back to the pump only operates inside the unit. It does not pump condensate. The condensate is gravity fed.
That's correct. If condensate is coming out of the drain line itself, that is just a gravity feed, just like any other unit. It drops down and goes out.
Right. So now on the filters, you said there's 3 available: the micron, the green, and I guess the black that was shown. Any
Yes.
one of those 3s, but you cannot not use them in combination with one another.
Yes,
correct?
you can. So, and typically that's what happens. And I'll see if I have, I know I have somewhere a better picture of those filters, but typically I don't show that all the time. But let's see if I can't find a picture of those filters. I know I have it. There we go. Okay. So this is actually shown from the Pro model, but the green filter, and of course on the Smart model, the filter is black. On the Pro model, the primary filter is white, but both of them come with this green filter, okay, and this black filter. And again, those are, the black filter removes smoke and odors, and the green filter removes airborne particulates such as pollen. So they are designed to, of course, here on the Pro model, it just mounts on these little tabs, and there are similar tabs on the Smart model. And you see, these extra filters are not as big as the main filter, but you keep in mind you're recirculating that air through, so it's constantly taking out pollen and constantly taking out smoke or odors. But again, these filters, the black and the green, are considered optional. If the consumer isn't as concerned about that, they don't have to put them on. But if they do put them on, then they just are cleaned on the same interval that the primary filter is cleaned. So we have a timer that is on the control board, and when you reach 600 hours of fan operation, this red LED will come on for the Smart and tell you it's time to clean your filter. Okay.
Yeah, but the filters, as you just pointed out, the green and the black are not as big as the primary filter. They are just auxiliary filters.
Yes, and again, they are designed to, as the unit is continuously operating, to filter the air,
right,
as long as that fan is on. So, as it collects particulate, and it cleans the air in the space, and again, they get washed on a regular basis. So,
what's the maximum what should I say, outdoor air temperature for condenser air that these things like to see?
We prefer applications that and we get our full capacity below 105 degrees Fahrenheit. We can operate up to 115 degrees Fahrenheit as designed, operate up to 100, but when you get above 105 degrees Fahrenheit, you start to drop off capacity, and it becomes, what's the cost benefit of having reduced amount of capacity when you have your highest ambient condition. So, but in your market, I think you very rarely see temperatures over 95, although it comes with 75% relative humidity too.
Yeah. Okay.
Other questions?
Yeah, I just had questions, but you pretty much answered them on the sleeves, seam on the top on the sleeve.
So I will go back and we can talk about one other thing that is, I'm sure, relative to your applications. So one of the questions I typically get from Floridians is, do you have a hurricane kit? And in some parts of Florida, hurricane kits are required. I don't know if they're required in up in the Panhandle, but it's a very easy. We do have a hurricane kit. Essentially, you can go down to Lowe's and buy it because it's nothing more than an 8-inch sheet metal cap, like you may put, cap the end of a duct. Okay, so we recommend that if you have a storm coming, and again, in southern part, like in the Miami area, they require this, that the consumer have one. And what it does is you do one of two things. You either take the grill off the outside, and then you just pop that 8-inch cap into the same hole. Now, no rain or water or debris can get through there. You can also just take the unit off the wall and install it on the inside as well. It depends. And again, if you're on the 3rd or 4th floor, putting it on the inside might be easier than putting it on the outside. Okay. So again, that hurricane kit, and what I do, we also use that exact same thing for, we sell a lot of these in Alaska, oddly enough. And in Alaska, they use it only for cooling. They don't care a thing about the heating because they have so much heating requirement that they've already got that part taken care of. So up there, we take that 8-inch cap and we put an 1.5 inch of duct board on the inside of that cap. Now you have insulation as well as prevention of snow and ice from coming in as well.
Yeah, because I was going to say, as far as PTAC units, and I don't know if Dan or Nick have any other opinion on this or no, but I don't know that PTAC units, that their sleeves or grills are rated, Miami-Dade hurricane.
And that I don't know either. I wanted to move to, because as you bring up PTACs, well, I can't, it's the problem with hiding slides is sometimes you can't find them. But we do have a PTAC kit, okay? And the PTAC retrofit kit. And darn it, why am I not finding it? But it's nothing more than a fiberglass cube made out of 1.5 inch duct board. And I've installed a couple of them in the Miami area already, and they work perfectly. So essentially what you do is you remove the PTAC, but you leave the sleeve in place. And I don't understand why I'm not finding it. I have a picture of it somewhere. That's so weird. Aha, I knew I had it somewhere. So basically the retrofit kit is nothing more than you remove the old PTAC off the wall, You leave the existing louver in place. I have to switch this around here. And then you make a six-sided box made out of duckboard. And here you see an example of one. And then you seal it with tape, and you just have this six-sided box. And that gives you 3 inches of insulation on all 6 sides. And then you take that box and you just slide it into the existing hole where the P-tack was. You mount your installation template on the wall. Then you cut the holes needed in the places required in your 1.5-inch duct on both the inside and the outside. You install your black plastic duct in between the grill, and it goes right up against the existing grill that's already there, and it works perfectly. It completely covers up the hole so that on the inside all you see is the unit, and on the outside you still see nothing but the existing grill. So those are, and again, if you're a sheet metal shop or have one that's nearby, one that does duct work, you can have these things made. We're going to have them eventually as an inventoried item, but you'll be able to make it yourself a heck of a lot less expensively because it's nothing more than 1.5-inch duct board. Any questions on that retrofit?
Nope.
Okay.
But that's something the contractor has to build. We don't have that ductboard item currently available.
Right, yes. So the contractor can either build it himself or order it through us, or through you. And we would have that as a accessory.
Obviously, Dave, we're in the land of duckboard, so it's not too bad for us.
Yeah, I would think that in your market, ductboard is used extensively, and so it would be quite easy to have those made up. And typically the P-tacks are one of 2 different sizes. The smaller ones that were the older ones, or the larger ones that are the newer ones. So it's the older ones where you're doing most of the retrofitting, and the unit fits right over top of the hole. So that was basically an introduction to the installation and application of a Maestro Smart. Now the Maestro Smart is single stage, 9,212 BTUs, and both heating and cooling. The Maestro Pro, which is the larger unit, the Maestro Pro is 11,600 BTUs, but it is inverter driven. And so it has a higher efficiency, and it has more operational modes, does a considerably better job of dehumidification because it can vary the speed of the compressor itself is inverter driven. The outdoor fan and the indoor fan are both ECM motors, so electronically commutated motors. So we can run all 3 of those devices at whatever speed and have, say, the indoor fan running much slower if we want to do dehumidification mode, and have the compressor, the compressor will go from 35% capacity to 100% capacity. And it will do so in a variety of increments based on how far are we from set point. So this is 11,600 BTUs of cooling, 10,600 BTUs of heating. And again, it plugs in the wall. It actually, even though it's larger capacity, it uses less current than does the Smart unit because of the inverter and ECM technologies. So you will use under 800 watts or under 8 amps on this unit as compared to about 8.5 for the Maestro Smart. Okay, it installs basically the same way. It has the same sound transmission coefficient and outdoor-indoor transmission class as does the Smart. So there is no transmission of noise from indoors to outdoors, or from outdoors to indoors, I should say. Okay. And this is a look at the unit, and I'm not going to go through the installation side of this one because it's exactly the same. The biggest difference on the Pro and the smart as regards installation is that the template that comes with the Pro is different than the one that comes with the Smart, because the drain is in a different place. So you may not recall, but on the Smart unit, the drain was located basically over on this side, whereas on the Pro, it's located here. Okay, but everything else is essentially identical. So one of the things I thought we would do is take a look at the tech guide. I have a file that I will send to Nick and Dan that they can then provide to you as well, on all of the technical guides and installation instructions. So it's a zip file, if you will. And so you unzip it and you have the startup sheet, you have the training presentation, the specifications for mini splits, the specifications for Maestro, you have the installation instructions, okay? So it comes with everything you need, including the troubleshooting information. So if we go to the Maestro Pro spec sheet, this is a single page front and back document that gives you all of the specifications you need for it tells you all about the features and functions. And then on the second page, you can see all of the specifications and capacities, minimum voltage, maximum voltage, how you're rated for both heating and cooling, your combined energy efficiency ratios, what your amp draws are, your air flows. So this is, all of these units, by the way, are obviously R410A in the United States. What that refrigerant's changing to is anybody's guess at this point. But again, it is a sealed system. And you can see the sound levels here are 32 to 43 decibels. Anything below 50 is considered, acceptable, because it's the noise level of, let's say, 50 decibel is less than someone talking very slowly or very low. Okay, so 32 decibels is typically when the unit's running at its lowest speed, and the 43 would be at its highest speed. And then, of course, you have your minimum and maximum operating conditions. We strongly recommend a load calculation be done for every installation, and not a lot. For instance, in your market, because of your high humidity, I would say the larger unit, the Pro, is good for 450 square foot, maybe 425, again, depending on what the size and the construction of your materials are. And the Smart is good for anywhere from 350 to 375 square foot. But there is a, see if I can, I'm going to take you to a site called CoolCalc. And this is based on Manual J. It takes very little time to do a load calculation. You can get a load calculation done for no charge, basically free, and then you can just look at the results. Or I think the cost is about $15 if you want a downloadable document that you can then give to either a consumer, or an architect, or a code official. Okay, so for $15 you can get that report. Now, one of the things I'm working on with CoolCalc is to create a link directly from my webpage to their webpage for doing load calcs, and you will get it at a reduced price if you want the reports. So I should have that in place in the not too distant future. Okay. So again, we have our fan speeds, dimensions, weights, sound levels, and indoor-outdoor transmission class, and sound transmission class, all listed here for you. So this also comes with a remote control, the Pro model. But one thing that's different about the Pro model as compared to the Pro model remote is either Celsius or Fahrenheit. So there's one button on the remote that allows you to change the display from Celsius to Fahrenheit, whereas on the Smart, you either have a Celsius remote or you have a Fahrenheit remote. Okay. That is pretty much the application side. I did want to point out that we do have a couple of vendors we're working with to provide Wi-Fi and wireless access. And so I'm going to turn on my camera here. So I have to find the camera.
We see you. I'm glad you still have your clothes on.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But why am I not? I'm not seeing it. There we go. Okay. So this device here is called a Celio Breeze Plus, and this mounts in the room, and you have to plug it in. It's got a power supply that's required, but now you have remote access from the unit without the use of the remote. You can access it from your iPhone or your Android, and you can also access it from your desktop. So you can have Wi-Fi capability. The factory is developing its own. I'm doing some testing with it now, but this is available today if you want a solution for Wi-Fi capability. Okay. And what it does is you just download the app and you put the unit's remote control next to your phone, and it basically does this Vulcan mind meld where it takes all the commands out of the remote and emulates that on its on the app. So a very, very nice option should you have a need for it. So that is primarily all the information that is from an application and sales perspective. We don't promote this unit as, and you won't sell this unit based solely on efficiency, because mini splits, you can have EERs on mini splits that go 18 to 20. Our EER currently, as it's rated, is around on the Pro 9.7, on the Smart 9.3. But the reason why those values are lower than on some of the other units is because the condenser coil size is small, and these are units designed to be compact, and basically, even though it's a self-contained unit with the compressor inside, it sounds, when operating, not much different than a mini split air handler. So it's very quiet, and so the other benefit in Florida, and I know we ran into this down in Miami, and it's probably true in other areas as well, is if you're going to install a mini split unit in most of, at least southern Florida, you have to get 2 permits. You need a permit for your electrical, and you need a permit for your mechanical. And those are about, down in the Miami area, that's about $450 worth of fees that you're paying just for your permits. These units, because they are listed by the DOE as a room air conditioner, doesn't require a mechanical or electrical permit, because you're basically, it's like putting it into a window. You're just putting it in the wall, but you're plugging it into the wall. So if you have code requirements down there for inspections when you're doing electrical work, that you have freed up that money as well. Okay. And also by comparison to a mini to a PTAC, you can actually cut the grill off from the outside, push the whole unit into the building. Now you have a huge space to crawl through to get in and out of the house. You're not going to do that with this unit with 2 small 8-inch holes. All right, I'm going to open it up for questions again.
All right, what I had here was, you mentioned that obviously the refrigeration system is a sealed system. Are there access ports though already on?
There are not. Okay.
There are not. So if
There
it
are-
has to be serviced, you have to mount.
Piercing valve. You need a
Yeah.
piercing
Correct.
valve.
But
Well, I hate them. They leak. I don't care whose they are.
Yeah.
I've never found one that lasts long term yet.
And the reason the factory chose not to put access ports on is because that's needed so infrequently that it doesn't make sense to put them on all units, and where 99% of them will never be used because it's a sealed system. So if one assumes that the only reason you're going to get into that system or get into the refrigeration system is going to be if the unit develops a leak, or if you have to replace a strategic component like a compressor or a reversing valve or something, then of course you're going to have to put a quick tap on there to recover your charge. If it's because of a leak, then your charge is gone. And then when you have the system open, then you install T's in the suction,
Yeah.
the high side, the low side, and braze them in, as opposed to having those clamp on ones that will fail eventually anyway.
Yeah, that's so the Pro has the inverter compressor, and you mentioned that the fan is ECM. Now, is that fan a single motor with double blades, or is it two separate motors, one for the condenser and one for the evaporator?
Two separate motors.
Okay.
Okay. And I can let's see if we go back up here.
No, that's fine. That answers the question. So I noticed on the Pro that it said it had an oscillation flap. Does the Smart also have an oscillation?
Yes, they both have oscillating, and there is a button on both remotes to turn the the oscillating flap on, and then it just goes up and down in a very calm, quiet manner to move that air up and down. Or you can press the button again and have it fixed at whatever position you want it to be fixed. Right. So it can be positioned so that it's going up 90 degrees or going straight out. You press the button and it will give you that airflow, and it'll just stay there. So that's something that you can turn on and turn off.
Right. And what is the tube that connects to the unit? Is it like a clear vinyl plastic tube?
You mean for the drain?
Yeah, for a condensate.
Yeah, so for the condensate, it ships with a black plastic tube that is about, I think it's either 18 or 24 inches long, and then you just cut it, lengthwise as needed for however thick your wall is.
Mm-hmm.
And there are two places that you can drain from: straight out the back, where you just cut the hole on the template, or it can come out through the bottom. Because what some people do, if they don't have the ability to have the drain outside, for either reasons that where in some places where it gets so cold it'll freeze, or the building owners just don't want water dripping outside, then from the bottom of the unit you can use the bottom drain that into a pump, and then pump it to wherever you would need to bring it.
Yeah, I know some of the hotels that had like the Amanas and stuff in them, they put a drain line inside the building because they didn't want that streak, on their walls outside or under the.
Agreed. And our unit, both the Smart and the Pro, can accommodate that without a problem, as far as putting the drain out through the. I have another slide here installation wise that would probably show that a little better, but you can go directly into a drain, and if you're going into a drain that's in the building, we just recommended that it be properly trapped. And I know I have that slide in here somewhere, but I just can't find it right now.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, but it's like you say, it's just a cap or a drain that you cap off. So, all right, other questions? Well, again, I have recorded this session. I'm going to stop it now since there appears to be no more questions.